Good morning, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, and welcome to the latest edition of the Pewter Report podcast, presented to you by Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company you can count on. Whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, be sure to give Briar Greaves Insurance a call. You can visit their website over at briargreavesinsurance.com or call them at 813-876-4166. Again, that's 813-876-4166. Today we have quite the fun show for you. After going through all off season, various live mock drafts with different guests from Michael Pless, Trevor Sikkema, JP Acosta. But we started with just myself, Adam Slivon, and Josh Queipo. So we thought it was fitting that we'd end how we started. And it's just going to be him and I today. We're going to be going over a live 2-round mock draft using the PFF Pro Football Focus mock simulator. Josh, it's great to have you on this morning. Can't believe the draft is less than 2 weeks away now. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing well, Adam. It has certainly creeped up on us. I look at my big board and I look at the goals I had for how many players to eval. I look at how many more I have to go, and you have the calendars with like X amount of days to go, and it keeps getting smaller, and the number of players to eval keeps seemingly getting bigger, at least in relation. And I'm like, crap, I'm never gonna make it.
Yeah, but you have done a lot of videos lately, breaking down like the top 10 corners, the top 10 or top inside linebackers. So you're making your way. You're making a dent in it.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun adding some video content to what we normally have done during draft season this year, the top 10 videos. And I really appreciate a lot of really great comments on those. So we're going to hopefully get a couple more position groups out before the draft gets here. So I'm really excited to finish up that series and potentially see how my big boards or my positional rankings end up matching up against what the league thinks of these players, because it's a fun draft class. Maybe not super top heavy, but it's a real kind of smooth, gradual decline. I hate using that word for this, but
Yeah.
just succession through a lot of these position groups. So it kind of is pick your flavor. What flavor do you like with a lot of these guys in terms of a roster fit for each individual team. And I think that we'll get into some of that here today.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned how the draft looks this year. And Jason Light put it last week during his press conference that it kind of levels out after a certain point. I mean, you have the top picks, you have the top maybe 10 to 12 blue chip talents. It's not as deep as it was last year, but that's what kind of makes the draft fun in a way, is the intrigue. And you kind of see the latest development with the Saints now with Derek Carr. And now could the Saints draft a quarterback? How would that shake up the NFL draft? You just never know until teams are actually on the clock making these picks. But one thing that'll be interesting and something to keep an eye on, Josh, is the amount of trades that happen. Because every team in the first round has their own pick. And will there be teams really moving up to get guys early? Or is everyone just going to kind of stick and pick? So it'll be a fun exercise. But I'm really excited for this exercise today because we have a 2-round mock draft, 64 picks that need to be made. Usually we do an hour podcast. So you think,
We're
maybe,
going long.
we're going to go a little bit longer today, but it'll be fun. Josh, I want to ask you before we start, though, do you want odds or do you want evens?
So I thought, because we're using the PFF simulator, because Trevor Sikkema is a former Pewter reporter, we honor the PFF Stock Exchange or NFL Stock Exchange podcast. Why don't we do a rock, paper, scissors? And then whoever wins gets to pick whether they are odds or evens. I think we talked about this right before we came on live. The odds are the really cool one. You are a Packers fan, and you have become a Jets fan with Matt Terra, and they are both in the odds. The Bucs are in the odds.
Number one is an odd number.
Number one is the odd number.
Last time I checked.
Yeah, the odds tend to have like the heavy weight of this draft. So I think whoever wins, it's probably going to take odds, but we'll let that person choose. So you ready?
Yep.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay.
All right, both had scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right.
You got.
I am going to take where did the Raiders pick? Are they an
They pick
odd or
at
an even?
6.
I'll take evens.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think I have this low key um theory with the Raiders, and I want to hopefully let it play out, depending on how the first 5 picks go. So I will take evens. I will let you take the odds and all the pressure that comes with making the Bucs picks.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Let me open that up here. So we got that. All right. There we go. So I already kind of had it set up. So we got 2 rounds, all the teams. We're just going to leave it on default settings.
Yep.
Everything look good to you?
Speed doesn't matter because we're doing all the picks.
Yeah. We're going at our own speed today. So we're going to start it. Now I'm on the clock at number 1. So plot twist.
Uh huh.
So I think the logical move here, the Titans, Will Levis, it hasn't worked out. Cam Ward is a consensus top quarterback. You really build around the quarterback position. And even though the quarterback class isn't seen as highly as it has in years past, I don't think you can go wrong with a guy like Cam Ward. You can
Yep.
develop him. He has all the tools. So that'll be my pick here.
Makes sense. I want to say Cam Ward is. Let me see. He's like right outside, like he's a top 35 guy just on pure grade for me. But when you
Yeah.
consider his the position that he plays and the importance of the quarterback position, he shoots up to number 2. So that makes a ton of sense. He's not the cleanest quarterback prospect. There's a really high ceiling with him. Makes sense that the Titans would want to lock that down, especially what they've done in free agency, in that they really haven't done much at quarterback in free agency. That totally makes sense. So that gives
I think,
me Cleveland at pick 2.
yeah.
I am I'm torn between the number 1 person on my big board and the number 2 person on my big board. Both are available. So number 1 on my big board is Travis Hunter, wide receiver, Colorado.
Slash
Number
corner.
2, yeah, number 2 on my big board is Travis Hunter, cornerback,
Ooh,
Colorado.
okay.
So I think the Browns could use help on both sides of the ball, and Travis Hunter helps on both sides of the ball. So I do think he's really a generational prospect, and I'm willing to take the bet that he is going to be impactful on both sides of the ball. So give me Travis Hunter to Cleveland for pick 2.
I really like that pick. And you kind of see it on PFF saying they need a wide receiver outside of Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. They need a corner outside of Denzel Ward. Why not address both of those needs and get a guy like
In
Travis
one
Hunter?
pick.
Yeah. And it might be the one saving grace for the Browns. They might actually be able to sell some jerseys. So,
All right, so here comes one of those tough decisions. The
yes.
Giants at 3. Are you willing to bet on Russ and Jameis?
I think with the way that the quarterback class is this year, not so high on Shador Sanders. I don't know if you take him at 3. I
Okay.
would say he probably falls down a few picks. Now, they have
Do you
Brian
shop
Burns.
this pick? If
We
you're the
could.
Giants, are you trying to see if somebody's willing to trade up?
That might be a good idea. Because I mean, you look at Abdul Carter and you're like, he's the best player on the board here. But they have Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, like Dexter Warren. So like their front is fine. But let's see. Hey, what about the Raiders? That's 6. You trading that pick?
No, I'm not going. The player I have in mind for them, I don't think they'll need to trade up for. I'm trying to figure out, is there a team that would actually want to come up? And I can't see anybody trying to get up to 3. That's the thing. Like, I see the
I mean,
simulator got 10 trade up. Like, who do they think wants to come up?
the Jaguars?
Why would the Jaguars come up 2 spots to jump the
They
Patriots?
have Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily for
Yeah,
Carter. I guess they could jump New
the
England for an
Panthers.
offensive lineman. The Panthers have no business moving up. They need to
You don't
keep
think
picks.
so?
Build. They need to build the roster. I
Man.
don't see it. And I think that's part of the reason why we haven't seen any trades to this point. You mentioned it at the top of the show, right? Like everybody owns their own pick right now in the first round. It's the draft has never gone this in the last like 15, 20 years has never been this late where you haven't had some movement of first round picks. I
Yeah.
think that I can speak for even teams. I'm not coming up. If you can find a trade partner on the odd teams, maybe the Jets, you're
Yeah, the Jets don't even show interest. The Falcons, they have too many holes to fill. I think
yeah.
this is a stick and pick kind of situation.
Okay.
Mason Graham is interesting.
You like Graham?
I do. He would pair really well with Dexter Lawrence up front.
I could see, yes, that would make it a very formidable front if you could get somebody to work with Lawrence. And Graham certainly profiles that way as more of a three technique, smaller, quicker, whereas Lawrence can wreak havoc from the nose tackle. So I could get that. I'm not super high on Graham
Yeah,
myself, but I can definitely understand the thinking there. And putting him next to Lawrence, I think, gives him the best opportunity to succeed.
I think that's what we're going to go with here. I mean, 6'3", 320. He has shorter arms, but I think the Giants, you have a 4-3 front with those guys. I
Yeah,
think that's the pick here. So we're
that
going
makes
with
sense.
it.
All right. So now I am the Patriots. And they went out and got Stephon Diggs. That receiver room's still not phenomenal. They need tackle help. They need offensive line help.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Will Campbell maybe?
Yeah, for me, it's between Campbell and three players I'm thinking about: Campbell, Tet McMillan, or Tyler Warren. I think Warren would be an interesting
Ooh,
playmaker. And the Patriots, where they're at in their development of their offense, I think that the interesting thing there is, for Tyler Warren, is you really want him to go to an offense that doesn't have a ton of targets to spread around. So then you can create an offense around him to design touches to him. Very
kind of like
similar
Brock
to
Bowers.
how, yeah, exactly. I was going to say, very similar to how Vegas worked with Bowers last year. So I think that that would be really interesting. The positional value of taking a tight end top five, though, and yeah, I think I'm gonna go a little bit more traditional here. They need help on the offensive line. I'm gonna stick with Will Campbell.
Will Campbell. Okay. Now there's the big Will Campbell debate right now, whether he's a tackle or whether he's
I
a guard.
I don't put any stock in the combine measurements for his arm length. That was like completely screwed up this year.
Yeah,
I'll go by his pro day numbers. I'll go by the tape. I think you let him fail as a tackle, and then you probably move him inside if need be, and he'll still be good on the inside. So I don't have a problem with Will Campbell as a tackle. And I'm talking to Luke Gedicke's biggest fan,
yeah,
and
you are.
Luke Gedicke's a short arm king. And
He is.
actually, what was funny is I was looking at it. You have so many offensive tackles from the 2021, 2022 draft classes who are up for extensions this offseason. You'll probably see a lot of these guys. Gedicke,
Yeah,
Zach Tom, Rashawn Slater, all of these guys, I think Bernard Ryman as well, short arm kings. Like, you don't need long arms to be a good tackle in the NFL. It's being proven right now. So let's go with Will Campbell.
before we do, I'm going to give you a chance to think about it further because we've gotten a few comments. So we got Shannon Sarver, no chance Carter gets past 3. Supply and demand, right? Why are you letting Abdul slip? But then JC Allen, he's no give me Carter. Carter, don't do it. I don't
I
either, but not with Carter on the board.
I
Stop that song.
totally understand where all of these people are coming from. Abdul Carter is a phenomenal talent. I think for these specific teams, I think we've made good cases for each team and why they didn't necessarily go with Carter. And this does mean that he is probably going to slip. I don't think he gets out of the top 10, but for me, I'm going with Will Campbell. Uh,
All
that's
right.
that's the selection I'm making there.
Okay. So we're at number 5. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars, led by Liam Cohen now.
Yep.
So you look at it, they have Brian Thomas Jr., but after letting Christian Kirk go, you kind of think they might need a wide receiver, more offensive talent, really, in general. You have Tyler Warren after letting Evan Ingram walk. You have Brenton Strange there, who also is from Penn State. So you have that connection.
Now, do you think about Tet McMillan here?
See, it's between Ted McMillan and
Yeah.
Tyler Warren for me.
Okay. I could see either one of them. Give Cohen some opportunities to just design up some fun plays. I also think with Tet, it really helps round out their receiver room where
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. then kind of plays the Godwin role. And it really opens things up with their back end of their receiver room as well.
Yeah, and you have a guy like Ted McMillan, who last year Liam Cohen built the offense around Mike Evans. You kind of get another like Mike Evans light, if you
They're
will. You get
kind
a
of hybrid
6'5" wide
2-3.
receiver. Yeah, I think Ted
Yep.
McMillan's a pick here.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna leave it up to you now at number 6. You said you had a fun
All right.
scenario.
Whole reason why I was I picked evens. So many people are talking about Genty, and I get it. This is a real deep running back draft. I look at the Raiders and I consider their general manager John Spytek came from the Bucs, and they may be high on DJ Glaze as their right tackle, and so I could be completely off base on this. Glaze had a pretty decent season last year, but if they are not sold on him as a day 3 guy, and they are trying to build an offensive line to give Geno Smith some extra time, I wonder if they don't go with the guy who's my offensive tackle 1 on my big board, already plays on the right side. I think, and Bucs fans will, don't this the wrong way. I'm not saying he is nearly as good, but very Tristan Wirfs like. I'm taking Armand Membu to really make that line solidify, because you've got him, you've got Colton Miller on the left side. They just went out and drafted the kid out of Oregon.
JPJ.
Yep, JPJ. I think you build up that offensive line. You give Geno some opportunities to actually, to have some time to throw. And I think that this also sets up whoever they take at running back on day 2, who will still be a very good running back. I think it really sets up the offense. So give me, and I know a lot of people would think corner for the Raiders. I think that you can piece together corner year 1. I'm building for the future with Armand Membu.
There's 2 things I want to say to that. So Genty, like big fan of him. He's going to be a great running back in the NFL. But with how deep the running back class is, that is definitely a position you can address on day 2, day 3. I
Right.
mean, you saw it last year with Bucky. You got a superstar running back in the 4th round. And then you kind of look at the corner class, and there isn't that surefire corner one. There isn't that Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, where you're like, you're going to
Well,
draft them. No, you have a top corner.
yeah, I mean Hunter, but off the board.
Yeah, yeah. So at this point in the draft, I think Membu makes a lot of sense. We're going to take him. So we got the Jets at 7. We still have Abdul Carter on the board.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna hit up the Bucs. We're gonna we're gonna trade up. Supply and demand set. I'd trade next year's first for Bucs to trade up for Abdul right now.
Wow.
And
I don't think
Josh
it
gift
gets you.
wrapping Abdul
I
Carter to
don't think it
Carolina.
gets you from 19 to 7.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, the Jets could. They have what? Will McDonald, the 4th, on one side.
Yep.
They have Quinn Williams in the middle. Abdul
Yep.
Carter would be fun.
I'm trying to think. Don't they have Jermaine Johnson too, right?
Yeah, he's coming off an ACL,
Oh, that's true.
but
But
that's a stout top 3.
what does their offensive line look like? They're always looking at
Well,
offensive linemen.
yeah, they're bad every year. Let's see. Offensive line. I mean, you'd be reaching for a guy like Kelvin Banks, Josh Simmons.
That's true.
Membu's already off the board.
Yeah, I think we screwed
I
the
think,
Jets.
yeah, I think so. The only thing would be Tyler Warren, because
We
what they
should
have Tyler
we should just
Conklin right
call
now.
Matt right now and just be like, "Who do you want?"
Right?
Just see what he says. We're phoning a friend.
Yeah. But I think
Let's-
the defensive identity under Aaron Glenn, I think it's Abdul Carter here.
That makes sense.
You want to build up the defense, and that's their strong suit right now. I'm going to take Abdul Carter here.
Okay. No thought on Shador there.
No,
They gave
not.
that
You have
2-year
Justin
deal
Fields for
to
2 years. I
Justin
mean,
Fields. Okay. All right. So the Panthers. Panthers need. They almost got Carter. Carter almost fell into their lap. I think that they
yeah.
would have been stoked about that. All right. So can you filter for edge and corner? So their edge room right now is just.
And actually, I'll put in linebacker too,
Yeah, I know where you're going with that.
because your boy Jalen Walker is right
Yeah.
there.
So right now they've only got one edge. His name is escaping me, but he's the 1 year assassin. He goes everywhere for a year. Although he signed a 2-year deal, that's why he's still in Carolina.
Jadeveon Clowney.
Um, yeah, I think if I'm the Panthers, I probably want to go edge. Mike Green feels like a good guy to put for them. Give them some juice off the edge there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like Green. Let's do Mike Green. And they
yeah. You
invested
can't
heavily on
deny.
the interior. Plus, they'll have Derek Brown coming back. So
Yeah,
you put all of that together. I think that they're building out some decent pressure packages there.
yeah. I think Mike Green's a solid pick. I mean, the production, like, if the off the field stuff is like cast to the side, and if like you find out that he was kind of clear of that and
Yep.
why he left West Virginia the way he did, it was for different reasons. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we're cognizant of some of that stuff. I think from everything we've heard, like, yes, it is certainly an issue. He's probably going to be off some boards, but I think
yeah,
he still probably stays in the first round. Uh, Jadeveon Clowney is who I was trying to think of earlier on the other
yeah,
side. So you pair him with Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney, who's actually a really good run defender, and this gives you some extra juice off the other side, high side. I think that makes sense. Now you've got a big decision to make, buddy. Big
yeah.
news coming out of the NFC South earlier this week. You want to, and I think our very own Bailey Adams wrote up an article about it.
Yeah, so with Derek Carr now needing shoulder surgery, his status for 2025 is unclear, and it looks like there is a world where he won't play at all this next season. And you already have a guy like Carr who is making a ton of money, isn't that productive, like comparatively to where he was with the Raiders. Just somebody that's kind of meh at this point, and you wonder as the Saints look to really overhaul their whole team, will they start with the quarterback position? And the guy there that would generate a lot of headlines would be Shador Sanders.
Yep. Dion, I think, put eyeball emojis on all of
Yeah,
that. Yeah, interesting with Shador. And this is, I don't even think that this is necessarily super reactive to just the Carr shoulder news,
no,
but they can actually get out from under his contract next year. They won't have to do like the restructure game. They can actually save cap by just letting him go. And he only has that 1 year. He's only under contract through 2026. So, new regime kind of. Mickey Loomis is still there, but new head coach, and I think that you start thinking about the future. Who do you want your quarterback to be? I could see Shador being the guy.
yeah. And then there is that kind of Cowboys connection with Kellen Moore now as the head coach of the Saints. And he was critical with Dak Prescott and his development coming along as a quarterback's coach. So you kind of want a quarterback friendly coach to pair with a quarterback. So I think you go Shador here. And you still have offensive weapons around him. You have Alvin Kamara. You have Chris Olave coming back. Hopefully, for Saints fans, he can stay healthy with the concussions because he's
Yep.
had quite a few now. But you have weapons around him. You have kind of that spotlight. Give him some excitement. So Shador's a pick.
Cam Jordan said you have a healthy quarterback for the Saints, and they're a top 2 team. So now he has a healthy
That's
quarterback.
for what Cam Jordan has to say. But
All right, this one I don't think about it too much. Like, I would run this pick in if I'm the Bears. I'm taking Genty.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on DeAndre Swift, though?
He's a fine back, but he's not stopping you from taking Ashton Genty. Like,
Okay.
I think that I don't think he's. I think that his production can be replaced rather easily, and I think the Eagles proved that. Right? I know they went out and got Saquon, but there was no like we have to keep DeAndre Swift. I think he's replaceable, especially when you're getting somebody like Genty, who for me is what is he? Yeah, he's after Hunter in the top two spots. He would be number 2 or 3, depending on how you count Hunter. So for me
Okay.
on my big board. So to get a top 2 talent at number 10, that's a coup if
Yeah.
I'm the Bears. So, and it really gives Caleb Williams a ton of help to try and take some pressure off his shoulders. So.
Even though I don't like it as a Packers fan, I mean, all right, we'll do it. So, just to recap the top 10, we got Cam Ward, Hunter, Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Ted McMillan, Membu, Abdul Carter, Mike Green, Shador, Genty. Now we got the 49ers on the clock. When I look at the 49ers here, Travarius Ward, he went to the Indianapolis Colts. Rock Yassin, he left in free agency. They've really let a lot of guys go on the defensive side of the football. And so that's kind of the direction you lean towards. I think that's
I
really,
get what you're saying. I want you to look at their defensive line though, real quick
yeah,
before you lock that in, because yes, they have let a lot of talent go, but not just in their secondary. They do have Diamador Lenore. They do have a pretty decent safety room, but look at that defensive line.
yeah, Gross
And
Matos,
yeah,
Givens, Jordan Elliott, and just really Nick Bosa.
yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
So, and this is a deep interior defensive line draft. I know we've already got one off, but I would
And that's
just
Grant.
maybe yeah, you start looking at Grant, you start looking at Walter Nolan. You think about Robert Saleh coming in, and he wants to be able to go 4 down and go. In order to go
That is
4 down
true.
and go, you have to have 4 down. So, just something to think about. You know,
Yeah. Kenneth Grant would be interesting. I mean, the first step for the Bucs defense back in the day and like kind of rebuilding it was drafting Vita Vea in the
yep,
first round, 2018. Then you kind of saw the pieces fall in line after.
yeah. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying now. Defense, interior defensive line, it's deep, so you could probably address it in round 2. Um, Corner falls off a little bit more, so I totally understand where you're going there. But I just wanted to throw it out there.
yeah. Now that makes sense now that you mention it. Because you can't just have Nick Bosa
Right.
and guys off the street running after the passer. So, ooh, Walter Nolan.
Got some really pretty reps.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go with Kenneth Grant though. You want to get
Okay.
that like kind of run stuffer nose tackle in there. He has a lot of talent. He paired with Mason Graham. I think he'll kind of open things up for the rest of the front there.
Okay. All right. So Dallas, they do have a running back need. They could use a receiver to pair with CD.
Really popular, like I've kind of seen in mock drafts, is Matthew Golden. Keep him in
Yeah, and
Texas.
I've heard they like him a lot. So isn't necessarily what I would do, but I think that it makes sense for them. Let's go with Golden. Let's
Yeah,
give
okay.
them that second option for Dak.
Even though Golden didn't, he seemed excited on his Instagram, like coming down to Tampa Bay, being at the facility. But
I think I'm the only person on earth who doesn't want to live in Florida, so I get it. I get it for most people.
so we have the Dolphins here at 13. So kind of doing some analysis like beforehand, they need help on both lines. The defensive line, kind of like what you mentioned with San Fran, and then also the offensive line. But now with Armstead leaving too, just retiring. So you kind of look Josh Simmons.
Yep. I want to say he's coming off of a pretty big injury, though, right?
Yeah. Calvin Banks.
I'm not a huge Banks guy.
Let's see, defensively. I think Walter Nolan
Okay.
would be the guy.
Pair
I
him with
think,
Zach Tyler.
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
We're gonna go with Walter Nolan.
All right.
Really athletic. Had a really good Senior Bowl week, I will say about him.
He did. Yep. Yep. So the Colts, I think it's one of the worst kept secrets of this draft. They want to improve their tight end room. The best tight end in, consensus best tight end is still there. Somebody who could be really fun for them. So, and I think they really like him. So we're going to go Tyler Warren at number 14 to the Colts.
Yeah. All right, so now we got another NFC South rival on the board in the Falcons. Now they
Heard
need help
we have a big
defensively.
need at punter.
Yeah, kicker too.
Yeah.
Young
You got
Hoku.
young Hoku.
No, they need a guy in the pipeline.
Long
Yeah.
snapper, maybe.
That is true. So you look at it, they need help defensively. They really just have AJ Terrell and Jesse Bates as kind of like the long-term building blocks. Inside linebacker Troy Anderson isn't it? They let Grady Jarrett go almost immediately. He signed elsewhere, so they really need help on the front seven.
Yep.
You have Jahad Campbell, even though that he will be out for some time with his labrum injury. I mean,
Yeah.
you get him, keep him around the southeast region.
I get it. They need the pass rush so bad.
Yeah, as a Raku. I think
Uh,
weren't they towards the bottom in sacks last year in the
yeah, they
NFL?
were one of the worst pass rushing teams. I could see them looking at somebody, maybe Azaraku, but I feel like they would probably go for more like a Michael Williams or a Shamar Stewart, those type
Yeah,
of, or James Pierce. I would say probably Pierce or Stewart would probably be the two that they would covet the most.
Pierce makes sense. There are some character concerns, but you still have the athleticism, the production. I think Mikel Williams. I think he's the pick. Like, keep
Okay.
him in Georgia and another like Georgia pass rusher that is a little bit raw, but you mold him into being above average. I think it makes sense.
Okay.
Jalen Walker, though.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
had a
either
lot of
Georgia
fun talking with
they
JP
get a lot of
Acosta
crap
about
for
Jalen
not
Walker.
taking Georgia guys. So either one would make I know people here in the state of Georgia happy.
Actually, I'm going to pull an audible. I'm going Jalen Walker because he can kind of be a hybrid edge
Okay.
inside linebacker. They need help at both spots.
Okay. That gives me Arizona. No trade so far. Arizona. All right. Feel like I'm trying to see. Let me pull up their depth chart real quick because I feel like defensive line could be it. I want to see what they've got Evan Brown and they've got Isaiah Adams as their I think guard is the way to go here. So Gray Zabel at 16.
Or Tyler Booker.
No.
No. Okay.
Nope.
All
Zabel's the
right.
guy.
The Bucs don't get a chance to pick Cody Mauch's teammate.
Nope. And that also kind of screws the Bengals, who could use interior offensive linemen quite a bit, but they also need defensive help.
Yeah. All right. So number 17. Got the Bengals. They don't like paying defensive players, but they might need to draft another defensive player.
Yep.
I think Jahad Campbell. This is a spot for him.
You really think that they'd take somebody who won't be able to start day one?
I think that like overall, like he'll be a good player. He just won't be starting right away. And they showed last season they didn't really need much defensive help because their offense is just it's been so elite and
All
high
right.
scoring.
All right. Campbell off the board.
Let's say. Let me look at their defense real quick before I make a.
So they got BJ Hill on the defensive line along with Hendrickson because they have not traded Hendrickson.
They signed Oren Burks from the Eagles. They have Logan Wilson. Their corner spot is interesting.
Yeah,
They
they've got
spent recent
Dax.
picks Dax Hill,
Yeah.
Cam Taylor Britt. They still have a safety.
Who do they have rushing the passer across from Hendrickson?
Cam Sample and Miles Murphy, who has not panned out.
That's not great. Yeah.
Azaraku.
I
Hmm.
could see it. I could see him. If you look at the body profiles, they liked Hendricks. Well, Anarumo's no longer there. Who did they
Yep.
get to be their DC?
Golden from Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I don't have a great read on body type for him. Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Jahad Campbell though.
All right, that leaves me with the Seahawks, who need interior help. Can you filter for tackles and interior offensive linemen?
Yeah. Interior offensive linemen's really just Booker and Tate Ratledge. Tackles. Still got those two guys, Josh Connerly.
Trying to remember, who did they get to be their new offensive coordinator? Clint Kubiak. So Booker is not going to be the guy,
No.
because Kubiak runs a wide zone offense. Let me see something real quick. This one's kind of difficult.
Yeah. You kind of want to build around Sam Darnold though. Get another big guy.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if either of those tackles might work better inside. Connerly, I don't think Calvin Banks. This does not fall well for the Seahawks at all. What
No.
does the chat think for them?
Um Take Banks.
That's what I'm thinking. That's where I am leaning, is to Banks, because I do think that he'd be a much better
Zone tackle.
guard than a
Or do you
tackle.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Yeah, let's go Kelvin Banks there.
I will
And
say there's
hope.
two other comments. Wide receiver.
Yeah, I get it. There aren't really any X receivers that are available at this point. Like the guys who are available right now, like you can filter for wide receiver, right? Luther
Yeah.
Burden is not an X. There's a good chance he might be more of a slot guy.
Ekbuka.
Egbuka, again, same thing. So Jaden Higgins, maybe, but that's a reach at 18. So
That's a
I'm
second
gonna
round thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Kelvin Banks and see if we can't get Darnold a little bit better protection on the inside and move him over to guard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm gonna take
Alrighty.
a nap while you do this one. You in the chat.
What? What? No, I need a hockey assist here. Can you help
Oh,
me out?
all right. So lots of defensive options, right?
Yeah.
For me, it
Azaraku.
would be a no brainer.
Yeah,
I would take Ezraku like
I
that,
would too.
but I am unreasonably high on him. I am higher than almost everybody else out there. He is edge 2 for me. Um, so that would be but there's some phenomenal options on the board here, like Jade
Malachi Stark.
Barron, Will
Will
Johnson,
Johnson.
both great defensive backs. I've cooled on Malachi recently, but certainly, could be a difference maker and kind of a chess piece in the backfield. So tons of options there. My wide receiver 1 is still on the board. So Egbuka, who I think
Yeah.
is very much in the Chris Godwin mold. So there's very few ways to go wrong in terms of me liking the pick. I have given you zero help.
I do like the idea from supply and demand, and then EJ.
So trade back. Great. Who's trading up?
I was looking at the Chargers because you have Luther Burden, you have Egbuka, and the Broncos could use a wide receiver. You look after the Packers, maybe they move up.
So the Broncos could use a wide receiver. They're the next pick. Are they
Yeah.
afraid the Bucs are going to take a wide receiver?
Well, the Chargers could be afraid, and so they would
Oh,
go
gotcha. All
over the
right.
Broncos to get a wide
Um,
receiver.
yeah, the thing with the Chargers, though, again, like the types of receivers that are available, like the Chargers like to run 12 personnel, so it's not really a slot guy. They already have
Or the Packers too.
what's his name from who isn't an like the type of receiver the Chargers need is not available.
Yeah.
That's
What about the Packers though? Because Christian Watson's coming off the ACL.
again, you need an X.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. There are talented receivers. Almost all of them are slots or Z's, right? F's or
Mhm.
Z's. And for a lot of these teams, they already have F's and Z's. If there was an X receiver, I could see that. And with the Broncos, I get what you're saying. Like they could use a receiver. I think that they are, if the board breaks this way, they are like doing cartwheels in the street because they're going to get Omari and Hampton.
Yeah. Okay.
And uh, Sean Payton has said that that's kind of the type of player that they could really use to um, elevate their offense. So now, if there's somebody who could use a corner and Will Johnson is still on the board, then I could see like a trade back helping the Bucs because another team could use a corner like
Yeah.
that.
Like the
I could see
Packers
it.
could use one too. The
So
Rams.
if you can find a team that's willing to trade up for a corner, all right, like I could see it.
Yeah. I just don't want to move back too far from the Bucks here. Because I
I get
mean,
it. I mean, the Packers. I could if you want to do the Packers there, like they want Will Johnson, especially because Jair, you never know what's going on with him, right? I could see that.
yeah. Look here. 7. Oh no, the pick I get in this, I don't get to use in the mock draft. So
You can do a pick
I
swap.
think I
You
think
can
if
do a pick swap.
Ezraku's here though,
Yep,
like it makes sense. Like you just want to take the player, you know the need. You signed Hassan Reddick for a year. After that year, will he still be around, or do you need to address edge rusher next year? I think
I
you get
would
a
love
guy
that.
in the pipeline. I think it's Ezraku.
All right.
It takes two to tango in trades, and with the way the draft is this year, it's hard to like project who will be trading.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. A team has to fall in love with a prospect
Yeah.
and then be like really, really concerned that they are not going to get that guy. Now, if I'm Denver, I am going to offer to trade back because I think that I can get past the Steelers and the Chargers
Hmm.
for Omari and Hampton.
I don't think
And I'm
even
going to
though it
offer
says
it.
the
I'm
Vikings need
offering
a
it to
running
Green Bay.
back.
I'm offering it
Oh,
to
the
Green
Green
Bay.
Bay.
Yeah. So you own Green Bay. You're odds. So I will
Okay.
offer you pick 20 for 23 and let's see here. Get the trade chart out. So pick 20 is worth 850 points, 23 is worth 760. So an extra 90 points would be somewhere around pick 100. So what are the so for 23 and 87?
Yeah. Okay.
You willing to do
87.
that? You want to come up for Will Johnson?
Mm, because Will Johnson's good.
He's
He has
very
some
good.
good tape. They need a corner. Jair Alexander. The scoop I've gotten on him is like they like him, but I don't think they like. At the same time, he's not the best fit in the locker room, and really just the defense. Like some love
Okay.
has kind of been lost there between both sides. Wide receiver, I think Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson are fine. So they would trade up for a corner.
Well,
Jade
keep in
Barron,
mind
though.
Watson's out basically the entire year,
Yeah,
and then he's a free agent.
yeah. Hmm. I think if I'm the Packers, I stick and pick here.
Okay. All right. So then I'm Denver at pick 20. I take Omari and Hampton.
Okay.
Running back, North Carolina.
Steelers. Oh man,
So
another
in
fun
this,
pick here.
does your Lord and Savior Aaron Rodgers end up with the Steelers? We should note whether this is predicated on he is a Steeler or they are operating without him.
Well, he's not retiring. I don't give him that option.
Okay.
He's staying,
Well,
and
this
he's
is the
playing,
only
so he's
team
a
that he can
Steeler.
logically go to at this point. So, are we pretending the Steelers have Aaron Rodgers on their team?
Yes, yes,
Okay. All right. So then that need is filled.
yes. It's filled by him. They have Mason Rudolph as a backup. I don't think they reach and get Jackson Dart. I
No.
think a team probably late in the first round maybe takes him to get that fifth year. But
I don't think anybody takes Jackson Dart in the first. I think we have all the first round quarterbacks are taken. That's me.
okay. So the Steelers, they need a tackle and they need safety help. Let me look at their depth chart real quick.
They still have Minka.
Yeah. Offensive line, they have Project Jones, Troy Fontanu.
Yeah,
They've drafted a lot of guys.
Jones has not been good. Fatanu looked really good before down last
Yeah.
year.
I'm kind of leaning corner because they have Slay and they have Porter, but Slay's also older. I think he's 33.
Yep.
I don't
They
know.
like long.
Yeah, they've had success with a lot of long corners.
Yeah.
I think this is a good spot for Will Johnson.
Okay.
Draft him.
All right. So I have the Chargers. Now, again, I know a lot of people would like a wide receiver there. I just don't see a wide receiver that kind of fits the bill. But there is a really, really good tight end in Colston Loveland with some ties to Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
So,
this is a slam dunk one.
yeah, I like this pick. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So I'm not a homer here.
No.
Got the Packers on the clock. Oh man. Okay, so Will Johnson's gone. So they didn't trade up. They ended up losing out on getting the guy that might have fit. You look at it though, they could still use a corner, still use a wide receiver, but not the best fit there. Let's take a look. Yeah, they signed Nate Hobbs, but he's more of a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
Defense. Oh, I forgot McCole Hardman signed there. That's funny. Okay, I think it's
That changed
Jade
your
Barron.
draft board a lot, right?
Yeah, right. We're gonna go with Barron.
Barron? All right.
Yeah, he's a smooth corner. Really impressed me when I had the chance to hear from him at the NFL Combine. Like just the ball production. I wouldn't be like against even the Bucs taking a look at him too.
Yeah.
But
No. He's and the big thing with Barron is position. Could it be nickel, where his size profile is a little bit better? I mean, he played very well on the outside last year. He's got a little bit of tape at safety, but he certainly has inside outside versatility.
yeah,
All
I
right.
think what 500 snaps at nickel, and then like 700 at safety, 800 at outside corner.
Yeah, a lot of the safety reps. No, somebody else. So yeah, I mean, he's kind of played all over, so gives you a lot of versatility there. All
Yeah,
right, so now Minnesota.
Minnesota.
All right,
You
let's
betcha.
see. There. Um,
Josh, is it true that you're a Roberto Aguirre truther?
Roberto Aguayo truther. I don't know about all that. I'm more of a punter than a kicker guy, to be completely
Yeah,
honest. So the Vikings have like a pretty solid roster all around. They could probably use a corner, maybe a long-term safety. But the other one that I'm looking at, like they've got a really good top two wide receivers,
yeah,
but they're a team that has an X, right, in Justin Jefferson. So then, and then they've got Jordan Addison.
They still have KJ Osborne.
Yeah, Jalen Naylor. But you add somebody like a Luther Burden to those two, I think that could be, or Emeka Egbuka.
I like the idea of safety because Theo Jackson right now is their starting free safety, but then you have Harrison Smith, who, while it seems like he's played forever, like he's in his mid-30s now.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Okay, Jason won't know this
But
one.
yeah, I think it's Jalen Naylor who's their number 3.
Yeah.
So give me Emeka Egbuka.
Okay. I'll go with that. Do want to give a shout out to King Buck 17 and the house from Saudi Arabia. Thank you for watching.
Appreciate it.
All right, so number 25. This is so obvious to me. I mean, you traded Laramie Tunsil. You need an offensive lineman. I don't think there's no getting around that.
Going Simmons?
I think Simmons here.
Yeah.
Go back to back Ohio State players. I mean, coming off an ACL tear, but before that, he was considered to even go a little bit higher than 25, like kind of in the.
Well, yeah, and that's the interesting. Like that's I think one of the obvious like maybe trade up teams is the Texans. It's just is there anybody who would be taking a tackle in that like the teens that they would want to go up and jump? And I think most of the teams in the teens are looking for interior help more than tackle help. So
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if you see a draft day trade where Houston comes up to get Membu or one of the other guys. So that makes sense. Yeah. All right. LA, the Rams.
They built up that defense last year in the draft.
Yeah. Who's playing corner for them these days?
Jalen Ramsey?
No. Nope. No, they've got Darius Williams, who's played pretty well. Akello Witherspoon, Quentin Lake.
Kobe Durant. Two good basketball names.
Pearl, Cameron Kitchens.
That's right. Emmanuel Forbes. They picked him up. Yeah, I could probably use a corner. Could they take Jackson Dart?
It would depend on how much they like Dart. I'm not high enough on him to take him in the first round. And Green Bay showed what you can do to a veteran quarterback who's looking to win one more ring when you take his replacement rather than give him help.
At number 26.
At number 26. So, and then their receiver room is Nakua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell. That's right. They got Devontae.
One of the best in the league. Yeah.
Still, yeah. I wouldn't. I'm not going to argue with that at all.
So you think wide receiver or corner?
Yeah, let's go Trey Amos. I like Amos. I'm high on Amos.
He's a solid kind of do-it-all corner.
Yeah,
like, he really good in coverage.
Yeah, and he forces a lot of incompletions. Like he's not as flashy as a lot of other corners, and didn't like test off the charts like a Darian Porter, or like people would expect for Savon Revel. But he's still a good athlete, and he's played very well against a really high competition in the SEC. So yeah, I think Amos there at 26. All right. You got the Ravens. Baltimore.
Yeah, so they have, I was kind of looking at their depth chart. Kyle Van Noy, Adafi Owe at edge. They still have David Ajabu.
So can I propose a trade, but it's actually an odd team?
Yeah, I'd be willing to trade this pick.
What do you think it would cost the Commanders to come up 2 spots? Or the Bills? Actually, no. I'm gonna suggest a trade because the Bills could use edge help. James Pierce is still somehow on the board. And the Ravens love trading back.
They do. They have a good front office, and they like to get
And
as
I
many
think
picks as possible.
there are enough edges that they would feel comfortable because Shamar Stewart is still on the board. I could see him being a Baltimore fit, whereas I could see the Bills coveting somebody like Pierce.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's see here. What would that be? So we're going from 30 to 27, right?
Yep.
So 27 would be. Come on. Of course. Now my computer isn't working very well. Here we go. All right. So 27 is worth 680 points. 30 is worth 620. So we would need the 60-point difference, which is around pick 117. So what do the Bills have around 109?
Yeah.
Chicago's. Okay. I'm offering you that. If you're Baltimore, you take it.
Thinking about it. 132, maybe 176. Like, because they have 4 compensatory picks. So maybe moving up on one of those picks.
All right.
Kind of
So
like
the
a
Bills
pre-swap.
would give up. Read off what would the Bills give up?
The Bills would give up 132 for 176.
The whole package. Sorry.
So it'd be the Bills giving up 30, 109, and 132.
30 is 620 points. 109 is 76. And then what was the third one?
132.
132 is 40. So that's 736. And then what are the Ravens giving?
27 and 176.
And 176. So that'd be 702. So there's still a little bit of difference there. About 34 points would have to go Baltimore's way. So that would be like pick 134, or I'm sorry, 144. So what are the Bills? That's a lot for the Bills to then give up.
Yeah. Okay. I'd be fine. Just 30 and 109 then for
Okay.
27. Let's do
All
that.
right. So with that, I'll just do the Bills pick. So Pierce here.
Yep.
And then you'll get to pick at 29, 30, and 31. And
Sounds good.
I've got Detroit at pick 28.
Shamar Stewart.
I'm thinking about it.
I think it'd be like the perfect kind of upside pick for the Lions defense.
I'm just trying to see, like, is there a filter for ankle biting? Can you filter down or scroll down a little bit, just see if there's anybody who just seems like they'd be
Biting kneecaps.
yeah.
Anyone?
Oh, that's right. Kneecap biting, not ankle biting. Sorry.
I mean, both. I mean,
Yeah.
they fit just fine. Slivon
So
Rebel.
yeah, I mean, they just
I
signed
mean,
DJ Reed
yeah.
and
He's
they've got
smaller though.
Terrion Armstead, so I feel like they're pretty good there. I like the Stewart pick. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do Shamar Stewart there.
Yeah. That's a perfect bet on traits if you're Dan Campbell.
Yep. Now you got 3 in a row, bud.
Yeah, let's have some fun with this. We got the Commanders.
See, I feel like if Michael Williams is there for them, I
Yeah,
can see
that
that.
makes sense actually. We're gonna go Michael Williams.
What's the chat think so far? We'll get to pick 32, kind of recap, and then see what the chat's saying so far. Besides, they think we're crazy for letting Abdul Carter get out of the top 3.
The Ravens. I think defensive back, they could get another one. Now that Shamar Stewart's off the board,
Yeah, I think
James
corner,
Pierce.
like corner's a big need for them.
Yeah. Because they drafted Nate Wiggins last year.
Yeah, but who?
Otherwise, it's
Yeah, he
Shadobi
played pretty well.
Awuzie. So let's see. Benjamin Morrison. I know you're not high on him, but
I worry
that's
about
the
the.
ball production from
Oh yeah,
2022.
there's some clean tape there. Like
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Benjamin Morrison.
take him over Revel.
Man, we got to get Revel to fall to 53. That's the agenda. Okay.
Ah, you got an agenda. All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
But no, I think Benjamin Morrison's a solid fit.
Okay.
And
And
then
then
31, Super Bowl runner-ups this time around. We're so used to picking at 32. They
yep,
need offensive line help. Josh Connerly,
yep. They can
they
move
traded
on from Jawan
they traded
Taylor
Tooney.
next year. They did trade Tooney.
They signed Jalen Moore, that's right. Yeah, Jawan Taylor was a miss. I think you get an offensive tackle.
Maybe
Luther
play him
Burden,
at
though,
guard.
they have 3 wide receivers already. Or defensive line.
If there was a team to bet on the upside of Luther Burden and not care about or I don't want to say not care, but not allow questions about work ethic or character get in the way of the tape eval, Kansas City's one of those teams.
Yeah, they did get Hollywood Brown, but he got hurt early on. He's coming back. So you have 3 wide receivers already. You have
True.
Sky Moore, Juju.
I wouldn't
Defensive
consider
line.
Sky Moore or Juju anything that would stop you from taking a
No,
wide
not at all.
receiver
They're
in
like
the
four or
first round.
fives, but
And then Rashee Rice, there's all sorts of questions about whether he's even going to be available.
yeah,
But imagine putting Derek Harmon next to Chris Jones.
that's true. Otherwise, they have Jerry Tillery and Mike Dana.
And Dana's really more of a,
Edge, kind of.
yeah, kick him in
Yeah,
and
I think Derek Harmon. You still build out the trenches.
come.
I'll leave it
All
up to
right.
you, 32.
So, trying to think. Eagles just got rid of Chauncey Gardner Johnson. It's a Georgia player. Guy who's considered very high on most boards just slipped. This is a Eagles pick, Malachi Starks.
The fact he fell to 32, I mean, last year they drafted 2 defensive backs with the first 2 picks. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So, well, let me take a look at their depth chart real quick. Let me just make sure, because I know they have Blankenship.
Right now, it's Tristan McCollum, Zion's brother, playing strong safety for him.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Yeah. So Malachi Starks.
yeah. All right. Dun, dun,
Let's re-
dun.
let's recap the first round. Get some comments from the viewers.
Yeah,
So I'll read it off. If you want to start looking at the comments, you can put them at the bottom. So top 5 was Cam Ward went to the Titans. Travis Hunter ended up in Cleveland. The Giants went a little off book and got Mason Graham to really build out their defensive line. The Patriots did focus on protecting Drake May with Will Campbell as the first offensive lineman off the board. The Jags got Tet McMillan to pair with Brian Thomas Jr. to kind of give them their Mike Evans, Chris Godwin pairing. I took Armand Membu in for the Raiders. Abdul Carter slid all the way to 7, and everybody thinks it's egregious, but the Jets continue to build out their defense. Mike Green became the second edge off the board, 1 pick later to the Panthers. The Saints decided to make a long-term investment at quarterback with Shedeur Sanders. Ashton Genty went to the Bears. Kenneth Grant to the 49ers. Matthew Golden, there's been a lot of talk about him going to the Cowboys, so we kept with that. The Dolphins decide to work on their defensive line with Walter Nolan. Tyler Warren does make it to the Colts, and they're very happy about that. The Falcons go with Jalen Walker. Gray Zabel goes to Arizona. The Bengals decide to take a little bit of a longer-term look at their defense with Jihad Campbell. The Seahawks are going to try Kelvin Banks at guard. The Bucs get Ezuraku, and I do backflips.
yeah.
The Broncos went with Omarion Hampton. Will Johnson goes to the Steelers. Colston Loveland makes it 2 Michigan men in a row. Jade Barron goes to the Packers. Amika Egbuka, I took for the Vikings to give them a very good, actually 4 um, depth chart in terms of targets when you consider TJ Hawkinson's there as well.
Yeah.
Josh Simmons went to Houston. Trey Amos gives the Rams another weapon on defense. James Pierce Jr. falls all the way to 27 with the Bills. Shamar Stewart becomes an edge run, really, 3 picks in a row. Shamar Stewart going to the Lions, and then Michael Williams to the Commanders. The Ravens trade back and take Benjamin Morrison at 30. Derek Harmon goes to Kansas City to pair with Chris Jones. And then the Eagles do what the Eagles do. They catch a sliding prospect from Georgia later than everyone expects him to go. And now we're on to round 2.
Yeah. I think that was a great recap, Josh.
Thank you.
So you look at pick 33 here for the Browns. They still haven't addressed quarterback yet. I think this is a spot for Jackson Dart.
Okay. You are a
Deshaun
believer.
Watson, he really slow on his Achilles recovery. He sucked on the field, and I just don't think he's really going to be the answer there. You had Jameis Winston last year went on a magical run. The year before that was Joe Flacco. Here you get a young quarterback that isn't Kenny Pickett and can be a little bit more. So
you're not a Pickett believer.
not a Pickett believer.
Okay.
No, he was a way overdrafted in that draft class. That draft class has proven awful. I think the best quarterback out of that is probably Malik Willis, but
yeah, that's your Green Bay bias.
Yeah, a little bit. But we'll go Jackson Dart.
All right. I mean, you're slandering a Super Bowl winning quarterback right now. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl winner. Just saying.
Yeah.
And
Tyler
you can't
Shaw.
tell me, he just rode the bench. He played in that Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you make a fair case.
I'm just saying. These are facts. All right. So the Giants, they have gotten a defensive lineman in Mason Graham.
Yep.
I think they have an opportunity to get a corner. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Maxwell Harrison, Savon Ravel.
So they've got a nickel in. They've got a good nickel in. He's out of Kentucky last year.
Drew Phillips.
Yeah. They signed Paulson Nadebo. They signed Javon Holland. They already have Tyler Nubin. That actually. And I still like Deonte Banks, although he seems to have fallen out of favor with that team.
How quickly they have fallen. I remember when Banks came out and everyone was like, ooh, he's going to be really good.
He actually did play pretty well. I think that it's more like off, like locker room stuff that I would say. They've got Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors.
What do you think about their offensive line? Right tackle, Evan Neal?
No, they've got Jermaine
Illuminor.
Yeah, Illuminor. And he's perfectly fine at right tackle. They've got John Runyon and Greg Van Roten. Like, if they stay healthy, I think the offensive line is decent shape.
Tight end?
What's that?
Tight end? I mean, Theo Johnson, meh. You can get like Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor.
Not really high on those guys. Trying to think. What would I?
That's right. They got Nacho. Everybody remembers Nacho.
Raheem Nunez Rocha.
Yeah.
Do they still even have him? I don't know if he's still on the. He is still. That's right. Okay. Brian Branson Thibodeau. They don't have a lot of. They don't have a lot of depth at edge.
Yeah. You want to do something crazy? You want to move up to 34? If you're the Bucs.
No, I'm not doing that. Can you pull up the the edges who are available?
Yeah. Nick Scowerton, Landon Jackson, Princely Umanamalian, Braden Swinson. I like Braden Swinson.
And And then can you pull up wide receiver? Actually, you know what? I think this could be a sneaky place to take
Luther
um,
Burden.
Jaden Higgins.
Jaden Higgins. Okay.
Yeah, because you could put him in the X. You could move.
Malik Neighbors to the
It
Y.
allows you to move. F. It allows you to move neighbors around quite a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's take Jaden Higgins here. I'm gonna be
Okay.
a little off book.
All right. And I think if you're the Titans, you have Luther Bird in there. You want to give him a weapon, or you want to give Cam Ward a weapon. Like the blueprint would be drafting a quarterback, getting him a young target, and Luther Burden's a first round talent here. So
Okay.
I think that one's obvious.
All right. So I've got the Jags. We addressed. Who did we address for them? You gave them Tet McMillan, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So wide receiver's been addressed. They do need help at safety, and I think Kevin Winston is phenomenal. So
He
we're going to
is.
take Kevin Winston Jr. to Jacksonville. Let's lock that in.
All right, so it's fun in the second round because some of these picks, it's like you picked them in the first round. Now I get to pick in the second round.
Right.
And you gave him Membu, building out the offensive line. They still need a running back. Who are the top? You could probably
If
wait.
Scatterbo goes in the second round, I will.
We riot.
I did. Yeah. I mean, he's a fun story, but come on now.
Jack Beck?
Is it Beck or is it Besh?
I've heard both.
Okay.
But I remember when the Bucs played the Raiders last year, the big thing was like they had no wide receivers. They have Trey Tucker.
Yeah, they don't
They have
have.
Kobe Myers, but
Yeah. So you have to think about role. Besh, I would think would be an F. He again, kind of a Chris Godwin. He's going to be a
yeah,
power slot. Do they have more of a slot receiver?
I don't really see that. Kind of like Besh or Beck, whoever you want to call him. They could use cornerback too.
Yeah, they don't have anybody to play corner.
No,
I
they don't
think
have
that
anybody to
would be
really
a
play wide
very fun
receiver.
pick.
They
But
did
you do
sign Eric
have
Stokes in
Bowers.
Green Bay. Yeah, you have
That's the
Bowers
thing.
who kind of
If
masked
you're
some of that.
designing targets for Bowers right now, I think corner is probably a much better place to go for them right now.
Darian Porter, like John Spytek leading that front office, he was key in moving up, get Zion McCollum. They like those kind of
In the
toolsy corners.
in the
In the
fifth, though.
fifth, yeah,
This would be rich for Porter. And
but
I'm
you saw
high
how
on it.
well it worked out.
Yeah, a couple years down the road.
Yeah, Azariah Thomas. I think corner. You make a good
Yep.
argument. Maxwell Hairston had kind of a down year. I mean, either of these guys, like Revel, you're taking a bet on him recovering from an ACL. Porter,
Yeah,
you're hoping he becomes
ACL
more.
these days, if it were me, obviously this is your pick. Full
Yeah,
respect. I think Revel would be the pick.
yeah.
I know you have your agenda to get him to
I do have an
50.
agenda, and it's 16 more picks, and we can make it a reality. But you know, no, we'll go with Revel.
Okay.
He is the best corner of here out of here. I'll cast my agenda aside.
Alrighty. So I've got the Patriots. We got him a tackle. They just need talent.
Not a big need. They just need talent.
They just need talent. Who do they have rushing the passer? They've got some guys inside.
Oh, they signed Harold Landry to that awful deal. Cam
Yeah,
White, Milton Williams. That's right, they signed him.
they do have Williams. You hope Barmore comes back,
Yeah, from the blood clots.
but
I know
Anthony Jennings is their other outside guy. So Pats need everyone. Yeah. That is true. Can you pull up the edge board?
Yeah.
I'm thinking Landon Jackson here. Maybe Gorton.
What do you think about wide receiver though? Because Stephon Diggs' deal is essentially a 1 year deal.
It
Jalen
is.
Polk hasn't worked out.
Yeah, I mean, we're 1 year in on Jalen Polk. I think I get the need.
Yeah,
And you do want Drake May to have some players around him. I'm not all when you are in such a big rebuild, reaching is not a great idea. So unless there's somebody you absolutely adore, I'm not reaching for a wide receiver, and I'm fairly low on this wide receiver class in general. So
yeah.
it's just not my cup of tea there. But you look at somebody like a Landon Jackson, I'd be him, or this seems a little rich for JT to Malau.
Yeah.
But I feel like
15
he would,
sacks last year, though.
yeah, and I feel like he would be a guy they would like.
Yeah. And a 3-4.
Let's go
I
with
could see that.
Landon. Let's go with Landon Jackson.
Landon? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Da Bears. Let's see.
So they got Genty in the first.
Yep. So the offense is pretty stacked. I mean, they got Tooney, they got Jonah Jackson. Their offensive line's fine. They could use another wide receiver.
I low key think that their line, like they'll think their line is fine, but I low key think that their line could have some major issues this year.
Yeah. I could see defensive line. Now they have Dexter from Florida behind Grady Jarrett, who they signed.
Yep.
Besides them, though, I think it's defensive line.
Okay.
Of the ones, Darius Alexander, of the guys who had really good senior bowls, he was one of them. I mean, last year the Toledo thing worked out pretty well for Quinyon Mitchell going to the Eagles.
Sure.
He had some really good tape. I think he's the move here. You
Okay.
got upside defensive lineman, round out the room.
All right. So I get the Saints.
You do.
All right. So they took Shador. Their wide receiver room is,
Rashid Shaheed.
yeah, Olave, who you're not sure what's going on with the.
Oh, they signed Brandon Cooks. They have Bub
That's
Means.
right. Okay. They currently have Dylan Radens
Cecil
penciled in as
Stover
a.
says Saints need O-line help.
Yep, I'm with you there. I agree, Cecil. Let's take a look at tackles and guards. Who's available?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I already know who I want. We're gonna give him Tate Ratledge.
Really? Tate Ratledge.
Yeah,
Okay. What about Ursary? What are your thoughts on him from Minnesota? He had a really good RAS score.
yeah. Haven't
Could be a
had a
tackle guard.
chance. Haven't had a chance to evaluate him yet. He's literally like, I'll get to him today or tomorrow. So I don't have an opinion, to be completely honest. But I
Okay.
do love me some Tate Ratledge. So we're gonna go with Ratledge.
Do you like Ratledge more than Booker?
I do.
Okay.
Let me take a look. I have them. Yeah, I comfortably more than Booker.
Okay. All right. So Booker continues to fall, and Tate Ratledge, he's the pick. The Bears get another pick. Oh man, why do I got to keep picking Bears?
So
I want to get
Genty
some good players.
gave them a running back.
Yep.
Darius Alexander helps build out that defensive line. What do
They
you
have a
think?
pretty decent secondary. They have Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, who they drafted, Tyreek Stevenson. Yeah.
You
Quan
got to keep in
Brisker.
mind Brisker has had a lot of injury issues.
He has. I'm looking at their injury report. He's already listed as questionable for next season.
Week 1 is like 5 months away. It's already questionable. Oh, that's amazing.
That's yeah. You know,
Coach, put me
Nick.
down as a maybe.
Yeah. Training camp. I'm questionable for that right now.
Oh man.
I like Nick Montanari for him in the second round.
Okay.
I mean, you have a guy that he has you have a guy. I sound like Chris Collinsworth saying that. Here's a guy, but he like lit up the athletic testing at the NFL Combine. Had
Yep.
really good tape at South Carolina. I
Did he
think
though? Did he? Did he have good tape?
some say. I think
Ugh,
he's like a second round player.
I, I I think that this is all being propped up by his testing because
Yeah.
I don't think his tape matched his testing. I definitely think he could go here. I think he could be a Chicago type. I just think that there are a couple other guys on the board who have better tape in
Mhm.
Watts. And what's interesting is Makuba, I think, fits what the Bears could use if they're trying to hedge for Brisker in that
Yeah.
just a downhill, just striker, like a guy who loves to hit. So lots of ways you can go there. Just to
Mhm.
give the viewers kind of a different perspective, you have a few different types of safeties there.
Yeah.
Emin Worry certainly is the guy with the highest upside just based off of his athletic testing.
Now, I don't think he'll be the next Cam Chancellor, Amon Worry, but
Okay.
I think like athletically he would fit like the Bears defense.
All right. Fair enough.
We're gonna go with him. Although you do make a good case for Xavier Watts. He was a really good playmaker at Notre
Yep.
Dame. He had
Lots of
13
ball skills
interceptions,
there.
I think, the past 2 years.
Yep. Huge ball skills. All right. So I've got the Jets. Who do we give the Jets? We gave them. Oh, didn't we give them
Abdul.
an Abdul Carter?
Yeah.
Okay. So they need wide receiver, tackle, and defensive line.
They
So
need a right tackle pretty bad. I mean, Carter
yeah,
Warren,
yeah. I was gonna say I was thinking about Morgan Moses, but Moses went to New England.
he did.
So Connor Lee's still on the board, right?
Hmm. I believe
Let's
so.
see
Yeah.
let me look at my notes on Connor Lee. Yeah,
I also
I think.
just realized their third wide receiver is Tyler Johnson. Yikes.
Yeah, but if you look, so like, go ahead and pull up tackles real quick.
Hmm.
Just tackles. Okay. I think there's a pretty big fall off coming between now and their next pick at tackle. Um, versus if you pull open wide receiver, a round from now, there's still going to be a lot of guys in like this in a kind of tier together. So I think they go tackle here. Let's go ahead and go for Connor Lee.
Okay. All right. I will say I kind of view like the offensive tackles and wide receivers at this point the same because I think there's a drop off at wide receiver because you have after Betch, I mean you have Royals, Trey Harris, Jalen Knoll. Like there's not.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of eye of the beholder because there are a ton
Yeah.
of guys who are really, really high on Aya Manor. I'm not one of them. Trey Harris. Harris is one of the few X's left. So I think from that perspective, when you talk about role, Harris
Mhm.
can fill that X need. But you talk to 10 different analysts, they're going to give you the next five guys in 10 different ways at wide receiver. So I think it really just comes down to the eye of the beholder. And I don't know if they're going to necessarily say these one or two are in a like huge, vastly different tier than the other guys. And just the sheer variance in what those lists would look like tends to mean that you probably have, they're all in the same tier. That's just
Yeah.
my take there. All
Okay.
right, San Francisco, you got him a defensive lineman in round one.
Yeah, I think Xavier Watts here. I mean, they lost Hufanga in free agency.
But don't they have they
They have
drafted a kid to
Mustafa.
replace him. Yeah, Mustafa. And he looked pretty good last year.
Now, would Xavier Watts be more of a free safety or strong safety, would you say?
I
Like
think
free?
Yeah, I think he can do both. And with the 49ers, they like to play especially with uh what's his name going back there? Salah. They like to play a
Yeah.
lot of split zone. So too high, Watts can certainly fit that. I
Yeah.
think
I,
he'd be
I like
fine there.
Watts here.
Okay.
Because then you have safety position where it's Watts, it's Mustafa. They signed the guy you like, and Jason Pinnock from the Giants. The only other thing would be linebacker because they have Fred Warner, but they lost Dre Greenlaw
True.
free agency. Let's see
They
what
also
this
had
is.
what's his name quit on them in the middle of a game.
Who quit on them?
Oh, he used to play for Green Bay.
Oh, yeah, Devontae Campbell.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. I think they could still wait around on linebacker.
Okay.
I mean, they waited back in the day and they got Fred Warner, so we're gonna
True.
go Zay Watts.
Okay,
We
that
got
gives
the
me
Cowboys,
Dallas.
Matthew Golden.
So, got CD and Golden.
Do you think running back?
Um,
Because they lost Rico Dowdle to the Panthers.
yeah, they signed a couple of former first rounders, if I remember
Did they get
correctly.
Javante Williams?
They
Was that
did
where
get
he
Devontae.
landed?
He was a second rounder, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I think their linebacker situation is not fantastic.
They have
So,
Overshown, and then he had a bad injury.
yeah. Let's take a look at
Edge
that one.
outside of Parsons.
Go back to linebacker. Let's take a look at that.
Yeah,
I feel like Sweshinger. Yeah,
that's a good spot for him.
I think so. Let's do Swesh.
All right, so we have the Colts, who they got Tyler Warren. They could still use some help defensively, adding talent there. Let's take a look. They have DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart. They have Zaire Franklin at linebacker. They signed Ward. So maybe somebody up front. What's our offensive line? They could use a right guard.
Booker's still on the board.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Quentin Nelson's more of he's a gap offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Okay.
the type of offense that they are trying to run is a little bit more gap oriented.
Yeah, I'd say Booker here.
Okay. One thing just to note, probably should have said it before you locked it in. I do know that they look highly at athleticism. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is a big way
That's
that
right.
the
Yeah.
Colts draft. Booker's RS score was not phenomenal there. So Atlanta, I feel like there's some good edges still available, and we're gonna
They already
take
drafted one, kind of Jalen Walker.
yeah, and he's hybrid, and they already had Caden Ellis, who they used as a hybrid guy last year, kind of off ball, and so I want to get them kind of an actual edge with some juice. I'm taking Brady Swinson from LSU.
All right. Swinson, just pull him up. I mean, he had 9 sacks last year at LSU. Had some really good tape. I mean, you look at the pass rush grade; it's 90. I remember when I think it was Trevor was on. He was really high on him, right?
Yep.
All right, so we got 47. Cardinals. They drafted an offensive lineman, Gray Zabel. They could use some defensive help. I can't really think of who their corners are.
They've got Sean Murphy Bunting, former
Oh,
Buccaneer
that's right.
great
Yeah.
Super Bowl winner.
Is that it, though?
Um, please let me pull up their depth chart.
Because I kind of think this would be a good spot for Darian Porter. Garrett Williams. Max Melton, who they drafted last year.
Garrett Williams, I know they are high on him in Arizona.
Okay. Oh, they got Calais Campbell back, 38-year-old version.
And he's still
Not the
playing
young
good
stud he
last year.
was. Yeah. Wide receiver, they have Harrison and they have Wilson. Greg Dortch. I'm going to go wide receiver. Maybe.
They also have Zay Jones that they signed.
Is he only 31 though?
I honestly
A little
don't
bit
know his
older.
age.
Oh, 30. He's 30.
Their their linebacker room doesn't look great either
Yeah.
because they didn't re-sign Kaiser White. Not saying he was phenomenal, but he was their middle linebacker last year, like their Mike.
So they have quite a few needs here. Would you say Harrison's more of an X? Marvin Harrison?
Yeah.
Maybe Jack Besh. Yeah. I think we'll go with
See it?
him. Get him a wide receiver too. Another
Okay.
weapon.
All right, I'm up with Miami. They historically ignore offensive line, but I'm not going to now. I've got James Daniel and Aaron Brewer, but they did re-sign Liam Eichenberg, and they have Patrick Paul, who's going to play left tackle for
Yeah, I think
Armstead.
Ursary would be a good fit for him.
Can he play inside?
Yeah. There's debate whether he'd be a guard or a tackle at the next level. Now he's a little bit bigger. He's 6'6", 330, but
Ooh,
you've kind of seen
is
like
that
bigger
is that
offensive guards.
is that confirmed? Is that his combine measurement? Check him out.
For his size, though, I know he's really athletic.
Let's take a look here. He officially came in at yep, 6'6", 331.
Or Donovan Jackson? Wasn't he a guard for a little bit
Yeah,
at Ohio
he
State?
he was. They kicked him to left tackle when Simmons went down. I was
Yeah.
just watching Jackson last night. I think there's a lot to like with him, and I do think he'd work better inside. So I'm gonna go with some recency bias in my own tape watching, and I'm gonna take Donovan Jackson.
All right. That's a solid pick. Spicy Mayo says Miami needs a quarterback. They have Zach Wilson, though.
That's true. There it is.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yep. That's all you need, right? All right. So we got the Bengals. They drafted Jahad Campbell. Here, I think would be a good spot for another edge rusher to go off the board. Because
Scorton's
outside
been
of Hendrickson,
sliding. Scorton's only going to be 20 years old on draft night. Like, there's a lot of upside there.
yeah. And for all the value you place on like Shamar Stewart, I mean, Scorton like outproduced him the past 3 seasons. And again, he has youth on his side. The whole Texas A&M defensive line is rated like it's highly regarded, but there isn't a lot of production there.
It's a lot. Some of that is scheme, the way that they
Yeah.
played them. In that scheme, it wasn't designed to allow for these one-on-one matchups where guys can win on the outside a ton.
To me, it's either him or Iman Amalian, but I think Scourtson's a good pick.
Okay.
Ever closer to the Bucs at 53.
Okay. Seahawks. So we got them an interior player. Because there are so many good edges still left, I am going to take Umanamelian.
Yeah,
I think that's good value here.
I agree. So you got the Broncos,
I get
who
the
you
Seahawks
drafted in
again.
Hampton. Yeah. What do you think is next for the Broncos? Wide receiver?
Let's see. I mean, Marvin Mims did some things for them last year, but they do have Troy Franklin. Yeah, I think if there's one that you really like, I could see that being a good pick. They've got. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Continue to build out that
The only other thing would
the
be
West.
center, but
Wattenberg did well for them last year.
did he?
Yeah,
Okay. All
that
right.
was a
So
really
yeah,
good
let's
line.
add another wide
Really
receiver.
good.
Now Sutton. He's 6'4", so he can be the X.
Who's that?
Cortland Sutton, who's already on the.
Yeah, he is. He is an outside ball winner all day long. Like he is a traditional X.
So is the guy from Stanford. Too early on Knoll yet. Defensive line. They have John Franklin Meyer, Zach Allen, of course. They run a 3-4. Could use a defensive tackle. A guy like TJ Sanders could be fun, though. Like, you have somebody like Zach Allen who creates a lot of pressure, and TJ Sanders could kind of fit in the middle.
Who else do you have for defensive line?
Tyleek Williams. And then it's like, you're going way down. CJ West, but...
Well, can you just pull for them? So I love CJ West.
Yeah. Norman Lott.
Norman Lott could bring a ton of pass rush juice for a very multiple defensive attack. That's a difference maker, even if he's not a 3-down player.
Yeah. Or tight end, too. Somebody pointed out in the comments. Michael Pless says, give him Williams, defensive lineman. Cecil says, tight end.
Didn't they sign Evan Engram?
Were they the landing spot?
I want to say
the Broncos
signed Evan Engram, so...
Could listen to Michael here and get Williams. How big is he? 327. Yeah, roughly. Let's go with him.
All right, so I've got the Seahawks again. Who did we taken for the Seahawks? We have taken
Banks and Million.
Dressed. All right, let's look at wide receiver.
Any other position, you think?
Let me just look at the wide receivers right now. This, I think, would be a good place to put Trey Harris. Trey Harris can play X. Gives you a downfield guy. And then that way you're letting Cooper Kupp kind of work underneath. And you're letting Jackson Smith
kind of move around.
Up. Yeah. So let's take Trey Harris here.
Okay. All right, the moment everyone's been waiting for. Pick 53, the Bucs are back on the clock. So in the first round, we addressed the edge position, got Donovan Ezraku, a guy to kind of fill in behind Yaya and Hassan Reddick. So
gotta go running back, right? Like, I mean, running back.
Scatabo?
Next there you go. Yeah, Scatabo to the Bucs at 53. Lock it in.
Yeah. Could address linebacker. Put that on there. I think defensive back. Look at corner.
Yeah.
Safety, maybe, depending how you feel about Tyke.
So
Maxwell Hairston. Darian Porter.
There's somebody I really, really like who's still available here. He's actually the top of my positional board.
In the comments, feel free to leave who you think the Bucs should take here in the second round. Because, I mean, there are some good options. You have Chris Paul Jr.
That would be the one.
Yeah.
Yep. He's my number one linebacker.
Over Campbell? He's your number one?
Yes. I am notoriously lower on Campbell than most. Campbell is my linebacker 2.
Okay.
But I have him in different tiers.
Yeah. I would lean slightly towards inside linebacker over corner because, I mean, you still have Jamel Dean for another year, but...
Well, the interesting thing is if you take the top corner on this board, it does solve safety for you because Hairston probably a slot at the next level, and then that allows you to push Tyke to safety. So it gives you that versatility there.
Yeah. I think you could probably wait on inside linebacker another round.
Okay.
See, Darian Porter is just so similar to Zion McCollum. I mean, you're drafting another guy who's really toolsy, really athletic, but at 200 pounds playing on the outside, you wonder about his physicality.
I think he's fine in terms of physicality. Like, I know some other analysts don't like it, but I've seen like what he does on special teams, and I think that he'll be just fine there. Maybe needs to be coached up a little bit. I'd be willing to take Porter here. I think it's probably rich for most of the NFL, just given the fact that he's 24 years old and he wasn't even a full-time starter at the beginning of last year. I'm willing to bet on the tools, especially with the Bucs coaching staff that have proven with Zion, with Jamel Dean, that they can take these guys who are raw but very athletic and turn them into good corners. The question is, are you willing to do that at pick 53? I think most
Yeah.
teams, the Bucs included, that's something you really want to do in the third, fourth, fifth round, not necessarily in the second round. So
There is Ezra Thomas, who's only 20.
I
So,
don't think I have real questions about his play speed and whether he can hold up at the next level. Like I think he is going to get exposed against NFL receivers personally. I respect
yeah.
Michael Pluss's opinion a ton, but that's my thoughts on Thomas.
I mean, that was one observation we had at the Senior Bowl. Like,
Yep.
against wide receivers on, like, out routes, like, 5-10 yards down the field, he's really good. But you're going, like, running a fade route on Thomas, he just can't keep up.
Yeah, and I think he ran what, a 4.5, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
And the
Like it was
threshold for Todd Bowles corners, I mean.
here.
Hairston was really fast.
Yeah, he
And kind
ran
of brings some
4.3.
swag to the defense. That'd be kind of who I'm leaning toward.
Yeah, Azariah Thomas's 40 time was a 4.58.
Yeah. That kind of takes him out of.
And I want to say that wasn't at the combine. I want to say that was a pro day, which means it was really like a 4.62.
All right. I think I'm going with Maxwell Hairston here. Again, I think, like, he's a really good football player. He didn't have the best 2024 season, but back in 2023, had a couple pick sixes, fits that ball hawk mold. You put him at nickel. I mean, Kentucky had a really good nickel, and Drew Phillips last year entered the NFL. Hairston, he could kind of fit that, move Tyke back to safety so he could play full time. I mean, there is some shuffling there, but I think it does work out.
Okay.
So that'll be
All
my
right.
pick.
Green Bay.
Give him somebody good, please.
All right. So they got Jade. Pull up the edge.
Yes.
They need some juice. Whew. All right. It's a little rich for
Josiah
all.
Stewart is fun
Yeah. He's not
for
necessarily
JT.
their type. And they don't really need a run defense first edge. They actually need somebody who can bring pass rush. Can you take a look at interior defensive line?
Omar Norman
So
Lott.
Kenny Clark really fell off last year, and Devontae Wyatt. What? Yeah, Omar Norman Lott. I like that.
I support that a lot
Give them
too.
some pass rush. Okay.
All right. So got the Chargers. They drafted Michigan player. They got tight end Colston Loveland.
Now, I will say Io Menor could be a great fit for them because he will block his ass off.
Mm. Did they re-sign Mike Williams? They did.
They did. But,
I
mean,
Quentin
he
Johnston.
was injury prone the first time around with them and then got more injury prone in his couple seasons away.
But they still have Johnston. They have McConkey. They have Brendan Rice, Williams. I mean, you feel good about that four?
No, you don't.
No?
McConkey's the only one you feel good about. Johnston took steps forward that he went from unplayable to, all right, I guess we have
I
to
thought he
play.
had a little stretch. I mean, he had 8 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
Stretches of field.
I think that wide receiver is still a huge need for them. And I think, like I said, I think IMNR would be a definite Harbaugh fit, just the way he plays and the role he fills for them.
And he played at Stanford. Where's that?
He did.
Or
So that
Harbaugh
means
was a coach back in the
Harbaugh
day.
probably has really good connections there.
Yeah. You make a good point, Josh. I'd say you're pretty good at this.
All right, that's my one for the month.
All right. Io Menor.
All right. The Bills. So we got them some edge help, right? We traded up, gave them James Pierce. Okay.
They could still use a lot of defensive help. Linebacker?
They have Milano.
They do.
Let's see who
Well, that's
else.
it, though, really.
No, they just gave a new
Or they give
contract.
a bag to Bernard. That's right.
Yeah. No, I think they're okay at linebacker.
Okay.
I think corner is probably a bigger need for them.
They have Benford, Dane Jackson.
They're not afraid to get smaller guys. Can you scroll down on the corners? Is there anybody I really like?
Really, it's the top two, and then it drops down a tier.
I don't even think
The top two aren't even that great, but
let's see. It's not a great safety room. Who's going to rush the passer when Joey Bosa gets hurt? And Michael Height is.
they do have Greg Rousseau, who they signed to a big deal.
Yeah, but it's kind of it.
They got Michael Hoyt, they from the Rams.
Yeah, but he's going to be suspended for the first 6 games. So is Larry Ogunjobi.
What did Hoyt get suspended for?
Both of them got like literally a day after both of them signed their contracts, they got hit for PEDs.
Oh wow, they were trying to juice up in Buffalo. Shoot. Okay.
Let's do Makuba.
What do you think of Makuba though?
Yeah, I like Makuba.
Yeah, really athletic, kind of rangy on the back end of the Texas secondary. All right, so we got Carolina, who they drafted Mike Green in the first. Let's look at their depth chart. Their offensive line is pretty good. It's in a good spot. I mean, they have 2 solid tackles, Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt. You know, they're solid. You got Bryce Young, Rico Dowdle. Wide receiver. Their defense, they got Bobby Brown, Derek Brown. But they could probably use another defensive back outside of J.C. Horn. I mean, Darian Porter has to go somewhere. That's kind of how I see
again,
it.
I think I get what you're saying. I don't want you to be too biased by Trevor's board. Porter will go somewhere, and it's going to be considered a coup when it happens. It's just he's very high on Porter. I don't know if Porter goes before the 3rd round, just given his age and everything else around him. Yes, the testing is off the charts, and I think that it's going to turn out very well for whoever takes him. I just think realistically, most teams probably won't look at him until the 3rd. Now, this is a what would we do draft, so you take him wherever you want. I just wanted to give you kind of that context.
Yeah. Still need wide out.
Because I want to say Porter will turn 25 during the season.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an older draft class. I mean, Demetrius Knight will be 25 too.
Correct.
I mean, tight end, they're fine because they have Tremble and they drafted Jatavian Sanders, who they're hoping pans out.
Yeah, Porter will turn 25 during the playoffs.
That's a good spot for a linebacker then. Because they have Josie Jewell, Trevin Wallace.
Wallace, very toolsy, but still doesn't understand how to play the position very well.
Yeah. I think Chris Paul Jr. here then.
Okay. All right, Houston.
Another offensive lineman.
I could see it, but can you pull up the wide receiver?
Jalen Royals.
So let me take a look. So they've got Nico. They've got Tank Dell. Dell's coming back from an
Who,
injury.
yeah.
Christian Kirk had his own injury issues last year. Let's see. That secondary looks pretty good. Can you pull up linebacker, edge, and wide receiver, and all of the offensive line? Let's see what we got. All right. So, Ursery. If he's
Yeah.
still available. Yeah.
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 That's a good pick.
That's it. Yeah. Throwing some darts.
Yeah. All right. The Ravens are on the clock. They picked Ben Morrison in the first round. They still need another edge, potentially. Let's see. That's funny. Malik Cunningham's on the roster as a wide receiver. They're pretty good at inside linebacker. Roquan Smith, Trenton Simpson.
Yeah.
Kyle Van Noy's getting older. He's 34, yeah.
Yeah. Tua Maloa is
Yeah,
like their type. I will say that.
that's what I was kind of thinking. Hmm. Derrick Henry's still the bell cow, so no running back.
Yeah.
Offensive line, Andrew Voorhees. I remember we were high on him, and then he had that ACL, but he's projected to be their left guard. Hmm.
They did have some offensive line issues early last year. They kind of got it settled, but wasn't I wouldn't consider it a strength of the team.
Yeah. I think based with who's on the board, I think I'm going to go JT here.
Okay. Oh shoot, you already locked it in. Another one who I think they might be high on would be like Femi Oladejo.
Yeah,
So,
athletic guy.
yep. All right, so Detroit. Let's take a look at who we already got for them. I want to say it was an
Shamar.
edge, right? Shamar Stewart. So Demetrius Knight feels like a good fit for them.
NFL ready. I mean, he's
And
25, but
let me look at their offensive line. Still have Glasgow. They probably want to give Mahogany a shot. Yeah, I like Demetrius Knight.
Washington.
Keep getting
Got him.
Buffalo.
Michael Williams. So they still have Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler at running back, and Bucs legend Jeremy McNichols.
There is a running back still available that I am really high on. I think I actually have him rated above Amari and Hampton.
Are you
Um,
serious?
yeah, yeah. It's
Caleb Johnson?
no, keep going down. Quinshawn Judkins. I
Oh,
think
I thought you were
Judkins.
going to go with RJ
No,
Harvey, a Peace Bailey.
no, I'm not Bailey. Uh, I love Judkins. I think Judkins. I think that he knows where to be in pass pro. He obviously is a bigger, more physical back, but he's still got a ton of explosiveness. And he tested really, really well. I think the tape is really good, especially if you go back to his 2023 tape before he went to Ohio State. Like I think Judkins is awesome. So he's yeah, I want to say I've got him above Hampton. Let me double check that.
So like mid first is what you would grade him, or
And but I think that this is a good spot for running backs to start going because we've only
Yeah,
had 2 go so far, and this
and
is
it's a
supposed to be a
really
really
deep
good.
class.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. We'll go with Judkins. I mean, it's another like dynamic weapon for Jaden Daniels. And then
right.
Terry McLaurin, he went to Ohio State back in the day, so
Yep. And actually, we're gonna do a run because Buffalo got a ton of early extensions done for their 2022 draft class, but notably, James Cook was not one of them. Cook wants $15 million a year.
yikes.
So I am going to take Caleb
What do you
Johnson.
think of what do you think of Dylan Sampson though? I mean, he had a
Haven't
really good
gotten to him.
season for
Haven't
Bunters.
gotten to
Okay.
him yet, to be completely honest. I'm not going to pretend and bullshit and everything. Just haven't gotten to him.
Yeah.
But I do like Johnson.
Johnson seems like a good compliment just based on his size alone to James Cook. Because James Cook is more of a receiving back, wouldn't you say? Like a
He's
really
a
good
he's a
receiving back?
versatile weapon. Yeah. I think Cook's getting overhyped by the national media just because he had a lot of touchdowns last year. But I think
Yeah,
Caleb
he had like
Johnson would be a
17.
good compliment and then take over for Cook as Cook moves on the following year.
Okay. That's pick number 63. Nearing the end already. I mean,
We
I feel
are,
like this has gone by, but it's been about 2 hours now.
which I think is great. I think that's a good time for a 2-round mock.
Yeah. All right. So we drafted him a defensive lineman in the first round. You wonder, hmm, is this Travis Kelsey's last season? I
Probably.
mean, you could get a tight end.
Who's available?
I mean, you still have both the guys that have been viewed as early second rounders in Arroyo and Mason Taylor. That's interesting. They could still use another defensive back because they have Brian
Yeah.
Cook at free safety, Shamari Connor at nickel. Not a lot of safeties.
Ransom's pretty good. So is Sanker. I'm a
Yeah,
huge
Sanker's
fan of
good.
Sanker.
Do you think second round though, or is third round better for Sanker?
I think he probably goes day 3, actually.
Yeah. Hmm.
What's available on the offensive line for them?
They have the tackle from Arizona.
Mabau probably kicks inside.
He tested really well, right?
So let's see.
Oh, his hometown's from Wisconsin. Oh, come on, man.
Oh goodness. I don't know if I have his testing numbers in front of me. Let's see if I can pull them real quick. All right. It doesn't look like he has a ton of testing. Yeah, he only did the shuttle. Short shuttle was 4.67, which is really good. Came in at 6 feet 4 inches, 303 pounds, only 32-inch arms. So yeah,
Ooh,
he probably profiles more inside, although that
yeah.
is a little light for a guard.
Yeah, he'd have to put on 10, 15 pounds, but you could see the vision, at least. Cameron Williams is another tackle. He's kind of slipped down the board.
Charles Grant is another one too,
Yeah.
out of William and Mary.
I keep hearing really good things about him.
Mm-hmm. I've only started my look at him, but
I can't say I've watched him at all,
looks good.
so. I mean, that could be a fun one. Is he only 300 pounds, though? Is the listed weight?
Let's see. Hold, please. Come on.
Steven says, KC have Wiley of TCU.
So Grant 311.
311.
6 feet, almost 5 inches, 311. His only really good testing was his 40, where he ran 509, had a good 10 and 20-yard splits as well. The shuttle, the 3-cone were both not very good at all. And then his vert and broad jump were merely good, not great. So not a phenomenal tester.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think offensive lineman's probably the position.
Okay.
We'll go with the guy from Purdue.
All righty. So,
Is there another
Eagles.
Georgia player?
What I'm thinking about for the Eagles, so their wide receiver 3 last year was Jahan Dotson. Dotson was not great.
When they played the
I
Bucs
just
and they
say
didn't have
Jahan.
AJ?
Combine their names. Let's take a look at wide receiver.
I was gonna say when they played the Bucs though and they didn't have AJ or Devontae Smith, I mean
Yeah,
they had
didn't look good.
nobody to throw to.
Didn't look good.
Kyle Williams?
I can see it, but I think Jalen Knoll would be somebody that they would be in on. Let me take a look at the testing.
He tested pretty good, I thought. Like ran
That's
like a
what I thought.
4.39.
I just want to double check. And oh, what happened? Come on. Yeah, his RAS score was 975. That's something that Howie would like. Only 5'10", but 194 pounds. So he's thick. Vert was over 41 inches. The broad was over 11 feet. You are correct. He ran a 4.3940. Had great agility. Let's go, Jalen Knoll.
I like it. That's a
Finish
great
it off. All right, that was it. We got through 2 rounds. We made one trade, all of one trade.
Not a lot of negotiating. I mean, we tried with the
But we
man
also wanted to keep this
20.
to 2 hours, and we're just
Yeah.
over it. So, we can go through the second round real quick. We'll
Yeah,
just
let's start
list
at the
them
top.
off. We already did the first round. So Jackson Dart goes to Cleveland, hopefully quarterback of the future. Jaden Higgins gives the Giants somebody to play on the outside at X so that they can move move what's his name? Oh my gosh. Skip
Malik Neighbors?
Malik Neighbors. Thank you.
Yeah.
Around my memory. At pick 35, the Titans get a weapon in Luther Burden. Kevin Winston goes to the Jags. Savon Revel goes to Jackson. Dariander out of Toledo goes to the Bears to help their pass rush. The Saints decide it is going to be important to protect their quarterback with Tate Ratledge.
Their new
Nick
quarterback.
Amenwari gives the Bears a very athletic player on the back end. Josh Connerly Jr. Becomes the latest experiment for the Jets trying to protect quarterbacks. Xavier Watts helps the 49ers try and rebuild their defense. Carson Schlesinger goes to the Cowboys. Tyler Booker to the Colts. Braden Swinson to the Falcons to give them a pass rusher. Jack Besh goes to the Cardinals to pair with Marvin Harrison Jr. Donovan Jackson Dolphins try and Bengals an edge rusher to develop. Princely Umanamelian goes to the Seahawks. Tyleek Williams goes to Denver to make their front seven even more formidable. The Seahawks find their ex-wide receiver at pick 52. The Bucs take Maxwell Hairston to put in the slot. Norman Lott gives the Packers some juice as a pass rusher. Elick Ayamanor is a hardball guy to play wide receiver. Andrew Makuba goes to the Bills. Chris Paul Jr. gives the Panthers a second defensive pick. Ursary, I'm just going to use the last name there. Goes to the Texans as they try and rebuild their offensive line. JT Tuimoloau to the Ravens. Demetrius Knight Jr. is a kneecap biter for Detroit. Quinshon Judkins adds some explosiveness and size to the backfield for Washington. Caleb Johnson is the running back of the future for the Bills. Marcus Mabau to the Chiefs to try and fix their offensive line problems. And then the Eagles take Jalen Knoll to hopefully give them a third wide receiver. And that is the second round of our
Yeah.
two-round live mock draft. What do you think? Were there any like hauls that you liked, like team hauls that you liked better than the others? And we'll see
You
if the
know,
chat likes any of the specific team hauls better than the others.
I kind of like what we did with the Bears. I mean, we got him Genty, and then with both second rounders, we got like high upside guys. I also think the Raiders did pretty well for themselves. They got Revel in the second round, who's kind of like a John Spytek
Yep,
like
and
corner,
Membu.
and then Membu like to build out the offensive line. Otherwise, the Bucs. I mean, we got Ezraku, who's like the guy, and then we got
Yep.
another corner in Hairston.
And Hairston is not one we've talked about a lot at
No,
Pewter Report. So I like that there was a little bit of a differential there. So
yeah, the Jets too. Also, the fact that they got Abdul Carter and then got another offensive lineman.
yeah.
What about you? What would you say?
Yeah, I think the Raiders was one that kind of stood out to me as one that I really liked. And then I actually really like what the Giants did.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Giants did well. They got Mason Graham and then got him Jaden Higgins.
yep.
Two really big positions. Before we get out of here, Josh, this has been a really fun Sunday morning exercise, but it's not the only thing going on in Tampa Bay on Sunday. There's plenty of action to cover, whether it's the Lightning, the Magic, the Rays are all playing. And what better place to watch it than walk-ons?
Yeah, so what happened out there tonight?
We struck out at home with leftovers, then we remembered walk-ons.
What effect did the situation have?
Spirit soared. Nick took on a burger. Jen obliterated her ribeye po' boy. And speaking of spirits, Laura even scored a real tasty cocktail. She needed that.
Any lessons learned today?
Yeah. Head straight to walk-ons.
Scratch-made dishes, wall-to-wall TVs, craft beers, and cocktails. Walk-ons for the win.
As I mentioned, you can watch the Rays. Shane Baz and Chris Sale are playing today, with the Braves playing the Rays at 1:40. You have the Magic. They're closing out the regular season. You can catch them at 1 o'clock. And then tonight, the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's the last week of the regular season. You can watch them at 6 o'clock. What better place than walk-ons? You can head over there. Although it isn't happy hour today, you can catch them tomorrow from 3 p.m. to close. But they have great food, great drinks, even though it isn't Slam Dunk Madness anymore. And if you download the Walk-Ons app, you can get free mozzarella logs, and you can catch them at one of their 3 locations. That's Midtown Tampa, Wesley Chapel, and Lakeland. All right, Josh. So we're going to be wrapping this one up. Again, it's been a fun exercise all off season long, doing various fun live mock drafts. Is there any that stick out to you? Would you say this one was, we went pretty detailed in this one?
Yeah, this was a lot of fun because we got the context of like the entire league and got to see how other teams could affect Bucs picks, right? I think probably the most fun that I had was our last one with
Yeah.
Luke Easterling. So that was a really interesting conversation because Easterling is not somebody I typically reach out to on the regular about my board and just talking prospects. So he was outside my echo chamber. And that I found was really interesting because we had vastly different takes on a couple of different guys up at the top. So that was a lot of fun for me. I think that was probably one of my favorites. And then Michael Pless of Real Bucs Talk, kind of towards the beginning of this series. I thought that was a really, really fun. All of them were fantastic, but those two kind of stick out in my head as some of my favorites.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation that we had with Michael. JP was fun just for the comparisons that he had to like
That is
different
true.
prospects and players. Trevor's always a great time, and like just hearing his insight is really invaluable in the NFL draft community. But this exercise was a ton of fun. Really enjoyed it, and all the interactions that we had with the Pewter people. And you can be sure to check out more of our draft coverage now at the NFL draft in less than 2 weeks on pewterreport.com. You can also find our stuff on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report. And Josh still has a couple videos coming out that you want to check out on Pewter Report TV. But for Josh Queipo, I'm Adam Slivon, wishing you a happy Sunday, and we'll see you next time on the Pewter Report podcast. Out.